Okay, ladies and gentlemen, take two. We had a minor technical issue. There were some pop-ups from Kyle's random search history. So, take two. David Baldwin, please introduce yourself.
Yes, as Timmy said, I'm David Baldwin. I'm his younger brother who is visiting from New York City. I live in Brooklyn and out here to be on your podcast and see family, of course.
Mostly be on the podcast.
Mostly.
Let's be honest. We fly in guests
you
from
guys
all over
flew
the
me
world.
out.
Okay, where do we want to start this off?
You tell me.
Okay, David. Let's start with, what was it like growing up on the farm in Millbrook, New York, the youngest of 4 children?
Growing up on the farm, I think I appreciate it now more than I did then, for sure. I think when I was younger, as you can attest to, was kind of the lazy runt of the family. I definitely didn't like the farm work as much. So I think back then I got into a lot of other stuff, but now like going up to the farm is one of my favorite things to escape the city, and I appreciate it a lot more. But definitely was a sick experience having mom homeschool us and like learning on the actual farm instead of in a classroom, because I do remember going to public school and being like, this is freaking suffocating, sitting in a chair for 8 hours a day rather than learning like in the woods or on the farm and stuff like that.
I don't know why you would call yourself lazy. I would never say that.
Yeah, sure.
How long did you go to public school?
I went in 6th grade. I started.
So a full year.
I went like 6th grade through high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So sixth.
I started in 6th grade. Yeah.
Okay.
And I literally got sent, like Becky and Katie chose to go. I literally got sent to public school because I remember mom came to wake me up to feed the cows and I went back to bed, and then she came inside and she's like, you're going to public school. We were supposed to be there to like help on the farm, and I don't think I was helping.
You show no use here. So
Yeah.
So you
we're
got
going
to
to send you out there.
Yeah.
Got it.
And education's your only hope at this point.
Yeah. It worked out.
Yeah, that would have been funny if you only went for 6th grade.
Yeah. I mean, I hated it the first 3 days, and then I absolutely loved everything about it. So it worked out in the end.
I believe Becky threw up on her desk
She
her
did.
first day of public school.
She was so nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old was she, roughly?
She did 8th grade. Katie and Becky
Okay.
both
So-
went
so
in
she-
8th grade.
Never been to school, then going in 8th grade. Yeah, I mean, you'd probably be like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It was pretty terrifying and very stressful, and it's a small school, so you're the new kid and everyone is very overstimulating.
Mm-hmm.
And I went home the first day early. I said I had a stomach ache and then begged to be homeschooled again, but
You probably did have a stomach ache.
no, I was just really scared.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
a stomach full of anxiety and
Yeah,
stress.
exactly. Just so overwhelmed.
I get stressed out when, I mean, not really, I'm exaggerating, but when I go to that kid's middle school,
Yeah.
there's so many kids there. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is suffocating is a good word for it, because there's so much stimuli. There's just hundreds of kids talking.
Yeah.
Well, you had said that it was suffocating, but then you also just said that you loved it. So,
Yeah.
like, what changed? Like, how did that?
Once I knew that my mom wasn't going to budge and that I really had to make do, I just made a few friends, and I had done baseball and stuff, so I had a little bit of socialization, but instantly I just really, really, really liked it and started making a lot of friends, and I really came out of my shell. And before public school, I remember I thought what I was going to do with the rest of my life was grow up and have a farm and have a family and all
Mhm.
that. And then I went to public school and I was like, oh, I'm not tied to the career
Mhm.
that my parents have or that I was raised around. So it just really opened my eyes. I started doing different stuff.
Dude,
So,
I never knew you thought that.
yeah, absolutely.
That we're going to have a farm.
Yeah. My 6th grade picture, I'm wearing a John Deere shirt and a bald shaved head. And then by 8th grade, I have long hair, completely different style. You can see the change. It's crazy.
That would have been the worst farm in America.
So
chicken
you,
farm.
so would it be fair to say that public school kind of opened your mind to there's other options out here.
Absolutely.
There's a different way of life.
Yeah, exactly. And just a lot of friends, brought me out of my shell.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that part. And then I started getting really good at school. So top of the class, and I really like that kind of stuff too. So academically, I feel like I started clicking a little more too.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Yesterday, our mother said that when she she said the minute she held her firstborn son, Riley, in her arms, she knew there was no way he would ever go to school, to public school.
Really?
Just because, I guess, because of what they were teaching and who would be essentially mentoring and raising her kids.
Yeah.
If you were to have kids, how would you feel about them going to public school or being homeschooled?
I don't know. I kind of loved the combination that I got. I feel like it was kind of perfect because I had a unique learning style from mom, and I could really self teach myself like a lot of things. And I think that was cool. But then the socialization I think was really, really helpful for public school as well. So I think a combo would be better, but it's a tough one. I feel like it's really hard to say that now. And then, like mom said, when she held her child, she decided that. So I'm sure things can change a lot when you actually have one, you know?
When you say self teach, what do you mean by that? Like,
So, like, when my mom would teach us with homeschooling, at least for me, I remember, like, science class, she'd be like, go out and find something and, like, you teach me, like, what its natural competitors are, advantages, like, draw it in your notebook, that kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like with college and high school, I was able to just, like, adapt that. And, like, teachers would teach a little bit, but I was really good at, like, understanding it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I adapted that into college because even with college, it was the same thing, like, lectures. I could, like, fall asleep through, but I'd go home and, like, learn the stuff, because of her.
I think maybe a good way to put it is like when you're homeschooled, at least how I remember, is it's almost like all your schoolwork is homework.
Yeah, very true.
Because you almost have to figure like you need to read this lesson plan, and then you need to write an essay or do an exam. And as far like my mother was there for guidance and help and did teach us, but she really figured out.
Yeah.
And we didn't have. I mean, I guess we started to have internet when we were young, but we didn't Google or do things like that the way we do things now.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So let's say you're doing like just regular math, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this seems so foreign to me because I never had to do this. Like, how do you teach yourself how to do math?
I mean, like through the textbooks and like using the resources that way too. Like I'm a huge reader now, and I've always been a huge reader, and I feel like that was also a big factor in it. Like, just I'm just able to comprehend it a lot quicker and in different ways, I guess.
That's interesting.
I think the term self-teach isn't like you're just like thinking up these.
Yeah.
But I think you're reading on your own. You're
Yeah.
basically doing everything it takes to learn something on your own. Somebody's not.
Yeah.
Nobody's holding your hand and
So
saying.
instead of like a teacher standing in front of the room and going through a lesson plan, you're in the book
Exactly.
going through the lesson plan yourself.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing because I think so many people are reliant on their teachers to teach them something, right? Like if let's just say you don't do the homework assignment or like you're not paying attention in class, well then you're not going to get it, right? And you're definitely not going to, if you have a resource that's a full-time teacher, and you're not going to take advantage of that, you're sure as hell not going to learn it on your own.
Yeah.
Right.
Precisely. And there's a lot of times where it's like almost a crutch, you could say.
Totally.
And like people rely on that. But I think that's like what our mom tried to instill in us, is just like figure it out. That was a lot of her style, I feel like, with parenting and teaching.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I don't know if you got that vibe from her on her podcast.
Well, this is just what I was thinking when we were saying that. Is it's funny that you would have a teacher kind of like hold your hand, teach you the lesson, and then help explain it to you, and then you get out into the real world and there's not somebody there to hold your hand, but that, I guess, that more or less can become your boss, and then they tell you what to do, how to do your job, and if you don't listen to me and answer to me and have me to help you and guide you, you won't have. So, but the irony is you're really going to be navigating most of your life by yourself. So if you learn that self-reliance as a kid, it can be immensely beneficial because you're thinking, well, I figured out all my schoolwork. Let me figure this out, instead of saying, hey, mom, can you help me? Or hey, so-and-so, can you help me? You just kind of, I think it would instill some self-reliance, which I think it did in me.
Yeah, no, that's why I totally agree, and that's why really interested in this because like I have had the complete opposite experience where
Hmm.
I always went to public school, um, and I would say that there's probably plenty of times when I used you know having a teacher to be a crutch, right?
Yeah.
Especially subjects that I'm like not interested in. I'm like I fucking want to learn
Yeah,
this,
of course.
right? And like so then it would be like my parents or my teacher would have to beat me over the head to like learn it, right? And
Hmm.
usually I would get like a C,
Yeah.
right? Um, on certain subjects.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess that whole thing of like I'd be interested to like look at if there was a study. I'm sure there's been a study, but if there was a study of like the folks who get homeschooled, right,
Mm.
and like where they end up in their quote unquote careers
Yeah.
versus people who go to school and then where do they end up in their careers?
Yeah.
Because I think you're right, and it's something that like I've slowly tried to get away from, and I don't know. I guess I've done an okay job at it, but like corporate America is like a version of school,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and like there's a path, and you're like you do this, and then you do that, and you do this, and you do that, and it's
Yeah.
like very structured, and that part of that is very comfortable, right? It's like, well, I just got to do these things, and I'm gonna get a
Yeah.
paycheck, right?
Exactly.
That's great, but at the same time, um, people rely on it too much, right? And it's like if your boss isn't double checking your work, and
Hmm.
your manager isn't, and then the HR department and the IT department, it's like people are completely um, non self reliant. Like they can't
Yeah.
fucking do
Totally.
anything without the help of IT or HR or their manager, and it's getting a lot, in my opinion, in the last 5 years. I shouldn't say 5 years, it's less than that. Something happened during COVID, and it's completely changing right now.
Totally.
At least that I've seen in my workplace is like people have gone from like somewhat self reliant to completely they are helpless.
Yeah. 100%. I was
It's
actually
it's
saying
wild.
too with COVID in the workforce, I said this to my friends. I'm like, we've lived through now something that completely changed absolutely like the entire workforce. Like
Mm-hmm.
I used to have to get up
It
like
doesn't matter
for
what industry. I feel like
no,
they're
most
all
of them.
changed.
And like now I used to get up, super early, ride the subway to work a 9 to 5, like have to dress up and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
like now I think about being in an office for a week and I'm like, that seems absolutely impossible. Like I haven't had an office in 3 years and I don't think I ever will again. And this work from home thing is like the new normal. And I'm like, how did I not, how was I not able to go to the gym midday or like go to the grocery store or something? Like the fact we used to just slave there for hours and
Yeah.
like not live our life. And now I feel like it's much more like
Mm-hmm.
work life balance. And people are more productive, at least in my experiences so far, and to some extent. But you also lose a lot of that, like, person, like seeing people, which
Mm-hmm.
is, oh, I hate not having people in person to talk to.
Yeah. I think we should get back to you. But anyway, yeah, it's an interesting kind of
Yeah.
thing that's happening. Um,
To back up to what he was saying earlier when we were talking about homeschool,
Yeah.
I agree completely with what you said about half going to school and half because
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I wouldn't trade being home. I was homeschooled my whole life.
Yeah.
I would never trade that, but it took me so long to socially evolve.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is the best way I could put it.
you're not even fucking involved.
So, excuse my
French.
associate over there and my French.
My associate. I'm an associate now. Mountain Mule and Associates, sponsored by Mountain Mule and
Shout
Associates.
out.
So, anyway, yeah. So that's if there's a balance. Maybe there's a balance of 2 days a week.
Yeah.
If the thought is what your kids are really, if the concern is what they're being taught a lot, and then 2 days a week they're going to get some social experience,
Yeah.
but it's not going to completely occupy their main mind and their psyche.
I mean, you definitely could also just like have your kids involved in a lot of other stuff. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
we were. I think.
sports helped a lot. Like, we weren't like complete shut-ins, but like, you know,
Yeah,
the joke is like homeschool freaks. Like, that's like the stereotype for a
and it
reason.
checks out a
A
lot.
lot of the times they're pretty weird and like socially awkward, you know, that kind of
There's
thing.
a stereotype.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like homeschooled kids are usually like the weirdos, the shut-ins.
and
Super
it's
smart, but like, you know, no friends.
yeah, it's not good to be in a society that you don't know how to associate
Yeah.
and function with. It's just
It's
not good. It's not going to
yeah.
do you any benefit.
Well, I wonder what like the percentage of children that are homeschooled. It's got to be so small, right? It's got to be like a couple percent.
I bet you it's more these days, like since COVID and
I'm
just
sure it is.
in current times.
Well, just
with,
in general, like just say over the last 20 years, it's got to be like just a
Yeah,
few percent.
it's definitely a smaller percent. Yeah, for sure. And there's like definitely like homeschool groups. Like we were even part of some, and they would span out like very far, you know. And it wasn't that big, but they were all pretty freaking weird.
Well, so now, like, what do you see differences? You've obviously assimilated, and like, do you see differences between like your coworkers, or doesn't have to be your coworkers, could be other people in your social group? Do you see like differences where like, and this is a little bit hard to say because you don't know what's in somebody else's head, but do you think differently? Do you think because of that?
I think I learned differently, and I think I maybe some things like some of the basics that I guess people got in middle school and stuff like that. Like there's some like cultural things that I feel like I missed out on, you know, like pop culture and like certain things from that beginning point.
Like what?
I don't know, like there's a lot of like music references and stuff like that. Like I was a complete country kid and like I don't really listen to country music anymore.
Shout out to country music.
And I feel like first through sixth grade and all that time, like there's just like, I don't know, random things that happen that I feel like if people are talking about
How old are
things,
you?
I'm 28.
So like you're talking like Britney Spears and
Yeah,
like
certain songs and
NSYNC
stuff
and
like
the
that.
Backstreet
Yeah,
Boys.
yeah.
And it's
TV,
funny because like that's when I think
movies.
about like my, I guess it would elementary and middle school.
Yeah.
There was like, especially growing up in LA, like there's so many pop culture references in front of your face because in LA there's all kinds of advertisements for kids.
New York
And
City too.
yeah,
As
I
you
guess
can
yeah,
imagine.
in New York City too.
Yeah.
But I don't know if like it broke out to like Millbrook area, right? Like did it?
Not really. Millbrook was a pretty small town. My grade was only 84 kids, so it even so like wasn't that crazy.
Mhm.
But you know, the New York City was 2 hours away. We had a lot of influence from there for sure.
Yeah. Like one thing that was kind of wild to me, you know, when I first moved to college, one thing I noticed was that the radio stations, like, and I went to like a kind of a college that the town would be similar to Bozeman, but like all the radio commercials were all local, right? So it was like local heating and plumbing commercial or local auto dealership commercial or whatever it was. But growing up in LA, there's nothing local, right? Like there's no such thing as like local anything.
Totally.
And not to, and I don't mean that, but I mean like from an advertisement perspective. In LA, all the radio stations are tied into Hollywood. Like it's the same business, right?
Mhm.
Like radio, TV,
Makes sense.
you know, movies are all tied. So like, I would say 50% of the shit that's on the radio in LA is all about celebrity gossip. So you'd be listening to the radio in the car in the morning, and they'd have a 10-minute segment on like, you know, Jennifer Lopez's new boyfriend.
Yeah, totally.
And so when I went to college, I was like, I realized I was like, wait, like it's interesting. Like, you don't hear any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like the only thing you hear is like, you know, you want to get like, you know, 10% off your, you know, mechanics bill, go to Bill's freaking mechanic shop.
No, totally. It's not right there. You never notice it. I know, it's crazy. I notice that as well. Like when I'm traveling and stuff, even not in the city, I feel like I like don't notice anything like that. But or like even, you know, streaming services and stuff. Like I don't watch TV and see commercials. Like I don't know what movies are out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's curated.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to David.
Ready.
All right, so you're on the farm. You're growing up. What's your fondest memories, or just distinctive memories, or just to give us a good story? You gotta have something.
Fondest memory on the farm. That's a tough one.
Besides the one sitting across from you.
I think
Sitting in bed watching Tim bale hay.
Yeah, watching from the window.
I would
of
sit
when
down
you
at the
work.
house and watch him unload hay and think of how I could hide when I see him coming
Yeah,
towards the
really.
house to ask
No,
for
I'd
help.
see the wagon coming down the road and I'd go find a hiding spot. um, Fondest memory. I mean, I think it was the winters were always really cool there. I was never like a cold outdoorsy person. Like I didn't really like the cold or the winter, but winters on the farm were definitely some of my favorite because we had, all the farm equipment and stuff. So we would build these giant freaking ramps and do tubing and sledding and stuff like that. And it was really, really, really fun. Extremely dangerous. I'm pretty sure we put like water on it one time, so it was like pure ice. So those ones were always really great.
What'd you build the ramps out of?
The snow.
Okay.
It was just enough snow to pile super high up, and we'd ride it like right up to the electric fences. Like we had absolutely no fear at all. So
The barbed wire.
yeah, barbed wire or electric fence. It was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, we used to make some pretty gnarly jumps just on sleds.
Yeah.
And then when my mom, oh well, I guess this one's more of when I was in college. You want more of a childhood one, right?
I mean, whatever. Just take it where you want.
When I came home from college freshman year, I looked out the window and there's a blizzard, and I saw mom like using a hammer to like break the water for the cows at like 4 a.m, and my heart just like fell through my chest. And I'm like, she is like 60 doing this, like total badass. So every year after that, I would start to work on the farm like for Christmas and stuff, and let her go out to Seattle and see my siblings. And one time there was Christmas Eve and a cow was born, and he was a blue roan. It's like super rare, and they come out like kind of blue. And I like begged my mom to keep him, so he was the first bull that we ever kept, and he was like my cow, and his name was Bronson, and that was pretty cool. I think that was like probably one of my favorite things, having my cow. And he was like, it was fun because when he was little, I'd play with him like a dog, and like we'd like run around. And then I came home from college, and he's fucking massive and trying to play with us, but he was pretty cool.
I was gonna say you're watching her out the window, and you're like, my heart just sank. I'm not going out there.
Going back to bed.
No. I give her a hug when she gets home.
So when you say she had to break the water, she had to break the ice so that the water would flow.
So that they could just drink it, yeah. It was like the big tubs for
Yeah,
it, and like it was just too cold. There's a heater on there, but it was just so freezing, and I was just like, she's paying for my college by like breaking through ice. Like I gotta go help her.
Yeah.
So that was my present to her every year, just coming back and completely.
You would just be like, hey, I'll take care of the farm for the week or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you got older, you would milk the cows on the weekends.
Yeah. I helped out a lot more when I was like
you and Tyler did it, right?
Yeah. We did it as a job for a little bit longer. But again, like once I got older, I realized how much like of a good opportunity the farm is, and like how a lot of people aren't lucky to have cool memories like that.
Yeah.
And like all of our selling corn on the side of the road to make money for the Dutchess County Fair, like that was really, really fun. I can't believe my mom let us stand on the side of the road with signs and sell corn, but we did it like, every year.
I wonder how old we were.
We were young, like very young.
She would let us, we would grow sweet corn, and she would let us pick it and then sell it on the side of the road, and we could keep our, we didn't do anything.
Yeah. The Dutchess County Fair was my Super Bowl. It's what I thought about all year. It's like,
what's it like?
It's just a week of being around a lot of people. Me and one of my best friends in the world, we would go every year, and
like how old were you?
It was pretty much all of our life, like all up until I went to college. And it's just once a year, and you'd spend the whole week up there, and you would show the cows around the ring. And then
how far was it from the house?
45 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't too far.
Okay, so you'd go every day.
No, we'd sleep
stay there.
You'd stay there.
Yeah, you have to get up at 5 a.m. to wash the cows, and like there's just like so much shit. And there's like rides down there and carnivals, and it was just a huge staple of my childhood. Like,
where was your mom at this point?
She never went. She was just milking the cows.
Yeah, she'd usually stay at the farm.
Okay, so who was watching you while you were at the fair?
We had two people who worked for my family for like most of my life growing up, Jim and Jen, and they were like pretty big. Like they would do a lot of the farming like later on, and they would take us to the fair. They'd take their cows to the fair and stuff like that. And then mom would take the farm during those times.
Okay, so they would like watch you.
Yeah,
they were like
kinda.
They were like second parents to us.
Yeah.
They were like,
Yeah, really.
Have you ever been to a county fair?
Not really.
I mean, it's basically.
I mean, what would you consider the one we went to a couple of years ago here in Bozeman?
Oh, that's the Gallatin County Fair.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
so I've been to a county fair, but like again, like the one in Bozeman, it's probably more authentic than the ones I went to outside Los Angeles.
Yeah, and it's usually it's a bunch of farm animals,
Yeah.
and rides and attractions and food, and
Yeah.
the farmers will bring all the animals for the attraction, and then they'll also like show and compete with all the animals.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's a week.
Yeah.
The Dutchess County Fair was the second largest one in New York State.
Okay.
I mean, so
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've said exactly what you said. This was my Super Bowl, my World Series.
Everything.
How long did it last?
It's a week.
Okay, so
We
for
go
1
for,
week
like-
you were
We'd go for like 9 days, but yeah, like my friend Tyler, we would pretty much talk on the phone every day because, like, homeschooled, not many friends, and we would literally plan out every day what rides we were going to go on, what foods we were going to eat. Like it was all I talked about, and it would end, and I would have like really bad depression.
Me too.
afterwards.
Yeah.
I'd like wake up at home and just
Yeah.
cry and be like, I want to be back.
yeah, because it was so fun.
Yeah, it was just a week. Yeah, and there was a lot of kids my age, and all the 4-H kids, like all the cow kids are friends, and there's like competitions against the barns for like nicest barn. And it's just like,
And then
fun.
I would imagine you would see kids that you saw last year or the year before that you knew
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that are from like a different town.
Yeah, and we're like, in our like single digits to double digits. So of course we're like going through the phases of starting to hit on girls.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like every year we're like, oh my god, we're gonna get girlfriends this year.
Yeah, that's
Kiss them on the
so
Ferris
fucking
wheel,
awesome.
and yeah,
But
it was
That
a
is so
staple
cool.
of childhood for sure.
Yeah, because you're excited to be like see little Jenny or whatever
Yeah.
that you met last year, and you're like, she's probably got titties now. Dude.
Yeah,
what's,
exactly.
what's up? Like, let's check
Yes.
these things out.
Yeah.
Take her back to the camper.
Yeah, exactly. No, like spot on.
You got to distract Jen and Jim or whatever, and be like, "Yo, Tim, I'll be at the camper for the next 20 minutes. I might sneak a kiss in."
the thing is that like it was so exciting because we weren't going to go to school every week and see our friends.
Yeah,
so you know what I mean.
exactly.
So it was literally 1 week a year.
Yeah,
It might not have. Although I talked to other people that like kids, friends that went there, and they would say the same thing. And they're kids that went to
Oh,
public
yeah.
school.
I mean, a lot of the kids that were there,
Yeah.
they have kids now, and they're still at the fair now, and they're like, yeah, it's the best fair in the world. Like every year when it comes up, I still have people texting me like, "You gonna come back this year?" But I don't know if I can go back.
We've had that conversation.
Yeah.
I think it'd give me
That's
too much.
interesting,
It'd give me
yeah.
too much PTSD
Yeah,
to go.
literally.
That's so
Because
funny.
you'd see the same people like 20 years older with their kids, and they'd
Yeah.
like be doing the same thing, and you'd be
Mhm.
like, "Yo,"
Yeah.
and there's nothing like not knocking it. It's just
No, yeah. It's different.
when you totally do something way different, you think, "Wow, in one life I could have been just doing that for the rest," and that's
Exactly.
fine. But
Yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw some more wood on the fire.
There you go. Now you're thinking. It's a little chilly here in Montana today.
Yeah, no freaking kidding.
Okay, so what's your best Montana? What's your best Dutchess County Fair story you can think of?
Shaved just the top of mine and Tyler's head, and they left the hair on the sides.
I remember that. I just remember you seeing you
And you
sitting.
guys had us go down to the store and ask the lady for fuzzy tacos.
No,
horrible.
That was Danny, and I think Danny had Becky do that.
No, me and Tyler had to do it, and they gave us just regular tacos, but we looked like we were old men. It was really weird.
What is wrong with them?
I don't know, but I mean, we would just have to sit there for hours and stare at cows' asses because you had to pick up their shit like as they shit. So you had to watch the cows, and I loved when we would tie the dollar bill to the string and have random city people try and pick up the dollar and then string it along. And
That was our favorite thing to do.
yeah, and just hours of playing card games, and that was definitely
Kyle, that's kind of loud on here. No big deal.
It does feel nice though.
I don't know, man. It just took off yesterday when I just threw wood on it like that. I bet you will. Or I'd guess it would.
Yes, it would. What's yours?
Dutchess County Fair. Oh, I think it was like all about the girls as much as I could remember.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like probably just a bunch of like, oh, I kissed some girl or something.
Yeah.
How exciting.
Right.
Most exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything really specific though.
I mean, you won Master Showman. That was kind of sick.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and that's
What is
so,
a master
so
showman?
I basically won World Series.
He's the best dairy cow shower out of all the dairy cow people. He got first place. So then he goes against the best pig person, the best beef cow person, the best sheep, and the best goat person. And they all show each other's animals in like a master class. And it was so fun. I remember I went with you to every single one to learn how to do it. You'd have to like make a friend in like the other, we weren't rivals, but dairy people stuck together, pig people stuck together. So you'd have to go like make a friend from one of the other tribes and get them to teach you their skill. And it was just cool. It was like such a fun concept, and we made a bunch of signs and cheered them on and stuff. Like it was cool.
So
can you explain like what showing is and how does that actually work? Like
walk me, master showman.
Walk me through like what does that mean?
So in the dairy cows, you want to always keep the cow's head up and keep the judge on the one side of the cow, and then when you stop the cow, you want the front legs together and you want their legs open so it shows off their udder. And then you just need to know facts about the cows, like their sometimes they ask when they had their calf, how much milk they produce, just like trivia, their name, they have like 3 names kind of.
So you walk them in a circle or something?
Yeah. So
in like a corral.
Yes.
In a big corral. Okay.
Yeah. And then they'll, there's I don't know, there's random things that they would do, and you'd have to answer questions and point the head certain ways, and just it was all about making the cow look good. And there's skill to it.
Yeah, so like a true showman would be doing everything to put that cow in the best light, like true show, like that's showmanship. Because what you're really doing when the cows are competing is the judge is judging which cow looks the best. And so you as the showman are making that cow look the best. So there'll be showmanship classes. So this class is just to see who's the best showman.
Yeah.
But most of the classes are just to see who the best cow is.
Typically you want to bring your best looking cows, and then based on when they win, you get like money and prizes, and their value goes up, So you want cows that produce a lot, have big udders. There's like certain things they look for, like they're good breeding cows kind of thing. And then, at the end, there's sometimes an auction, and, if your cow did good in the shows, it's probably going to make you more money.
Yeah. Okay.
We never did it as competitively as some people.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big money industry. It's like, I mean, you see dog shows on TVs and everything. There's money tied to all this stuff.
They'll breed for it. Well,
so you would, and so how many, like this thing was 9 days. Would you show every day, or once it was like one event, one day?
Like 3 or 4 times probably in the week.
Okay. Yeah. There's different ones. Yeah.
So like that day or like the day before or the night before, you'd wash the cow.
You have to do every day, all of them. That's just part of chores. Like every day, 5 a.m.
Which is interesting, right? Because they would never get washed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like on the farm.
The first cleaning.
Right? You'd be like, dude, we're not fucking washing these things for a long time.
Sometimes
ever?
No, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
ever.
We'd pick one for shows, and then that first cleaning, brutal, because you gotta get all the shit off from their whole life.
And you'd like scrub the shit out of them.
And you shave
hose them down.
You shave them.
If they're black hooves, you'll spray paint them more black, fluff up their tail,
really?
spike up their.
Oh wow!
Like a top line, use like gels to spike it up.
That's fucking cool.
It really was a lot, and we like
you literally putting makeup on a freaking
absolutely
on a cow.
Yeah, it's that some people are so into it, and some people just do it. But like, you might bring 10 cows to the fair, so that cow's going to show 10 times, and then there's a mother-daughter class. Yeah. So you'll show like a mother and a daughter cow against someone else's mother and daughter. And then there's all these different age groups.
This is so fucking funny. Right? Because you think about it, you're like somebody thought about dude, you better bring your shit, dude. Like bring mom and the daughter. We're going to combine somebody thought about this.
Yeah. But if you just follow the trail back to the money, you'd realize just think about this. You have the best cow. This cow wins every show. It's the best looking cow. And this cow,
when you say it wins every show, like it's won a handful in a row.
Yeah. You take it to every different fair, the New York State Fair, the Pennsylvania.
In your region or whatever.
Yeah. Or you can go all
over the country. Yeah.
And so everyone, and this cow is producing the most milk. So everyone who's running a real farm is going to think, wow, I should get those genes in my herd because then all my cows will produce the most milk and I'll make the most money. So you start selling the offspring's semen from that cow. So that cow has a bull. and you sell that, and
Yeah.
because they can artificially inseminate, they can freeze it and distribute it all over the world. So
Mm-hmm.
there really is an insane amount of money tied to it.
Yeah.
If you really, so that's why even on the smallest scale of
So did you like end up making money from genetics when you were you best in?
that's
what
not
were you,
no that's not
showman?
something we did.
We
Like
we just did it for fun.
Okay.
And we went with a lot of families, like 5 or 6. So we'd have like a herd of like, we took up like a whole barn, like 37 cows, and we'd wash them like every morning. But we had like a full team of people, and they were good at it. But
It was
yeah,
fun.
we weren't breeding for shows. We would just every year pick either our cow or favorite or one that looked good. But
Okay.
it wasn't-
it's also very cool. Like you have a family farm and you bring your cow, and then like she goes up to the county fair and beats everyone's cow, and you're like, wow, I got the best cow in the county essentially.
Yeah.
And then people be like, oh, who is that cow? Like, are you going to sell the calf out of that? Like local people might
Yeah.
want to buy
Sure.
offspring of that. And
Katie had one that did. I remember one year it won like everything. She had like a insanely nice cow. I think she sold it. Remember Question or something like that.
Yeah.
It won like every show it went into. And you know, there's people that are breeding for it, and they're so pissed that her favorite cow is
Yeah.
kicking ass, and she didn't really.
and then
Plan it.
if somebody thought it was that special, they'd say you should take that cow to the state fair.
Yeah.
And then if it does good, like you should take that cow to the World Dairy Expo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
In
where the
Madison,
big money
so-
is. That's where they'll auction a cow for like offer $1 million.
Yeah, and then people might be like, I'll buy that cow right now for $15,000 from you.
Yeah.
Or you'd
Yeah.
be like, no, I'm going to breed this cow and sell the embryos. But
Yeah.
there's a chance. But most people, like kids in 4-H, are doing it for
What's
the experience.
what's the big Black Angus show in Denver?
I don't know.
What's it called?
It's not our circus, not our monkeys.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's a huge show every year in Denver. It's kind of like, I think the equivalent to like what you were saying is in
Yeah.
Madison.
Yeah.
I did the state fair one year with Tim Kuhn, and one of his cows, it was like his best one on the auction, sold for $100,000, and I was like, "Holy crap! That's the cow that I was taking care of. It was worth $100K."
Whoa.
Like, damn,
Hmm.
it's freaking crazy. But yeah.
All right. So the fair, man.
Yeah, big part of childhood. I
Mhm.
haven't been back since I graduated college.
Okay, so
Cox.
Yeah,
Our
that's
games,
right.
We
Yep.
scream "Go Cox"
Yep.
and booty shorts and hats that just say Cox. So
Mhm.
in college was a fantastic experience, but
What'd you study?
I studied business and marketing and business management. I did it on the management side.
All right.
And then I minored in French.
Oh, all right.
And yeah, South Carolina was amazing. My whole concept was I know I probably want to end up in New York City, but I want college to be college, so I didn't apply to schools in New York City. I applied to some, but I really didn't want to go there. So I flew to Florida because I wanted to stay on the East Coast, and me and my mom and my best friend drove up the East Coast to all the schools that I liked and that I got into. And South Carolina had football games with free students to tickets and a giant horseshoe-shaped lawn called the Horseshoe where people were playing frisbee, and it was just gorgeous weather. And I was like, this feels like
You just felt good.
college. Like I'm on a campus. I got a football team. I'm at a state-recognized university. So
who
that
was your
my
friend?
choice. Joe.
Oh, did he didn't go there, did he?
He came for 13 days and then went back home.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, he wanted to be home.
It happens.
It happens.
What can you
Yeah.
do?
Nothing.
Okay, so what about college?
I loved college. I use marketing and management in my job now, so I think I picked a good thing to study. And college was great. Met a lot of great people. South Carolina was cool, but I think 4 years would be my limit there. But total culture shock when I got there. It was very, very different world at first. And actually, that was similar to when I was homeschooled. I went there, and the first week I called my mom, and I was like, I miss my friend. I had a tight-knit friend group in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We're still to this day, like always together. I was just with them last weekend, like very tight knit. And I went to college and I was just like looking for the South Carolina version of all my friends.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't finding it. And I was bored. And I called my mom and I said, I'm ready to come home. I can go to Dutchess. They offered me full ride. Like, I'll just go to New York school. And she said, can you afford a plane ticket? I said, no. And she said, all right, see you for Thanksgiving. And I hung up the phone.
Lisa.
So-
Liz.
Liz.
Shit,
What a
Liz.
jackass.
Lisa, too.
Shout out Lisa.
Shout out to Lisa and Liz.
And that made me get my ass out of bed and go join some organizations, and then I really, really loved it. And every summer,
So when did you make that phone call? How
a
far?
weekend, it was a few days.
Oh,
I
so
was-
you it wasn't even
No, I was just spending so much time.
like
enjoying
that. That's
the
not
school.
even like
It was like,
You know.
yeah, no, but down there, they're so big into fraternities, and that just wasn't my speed. And
Mhm.
everyone was just different. Like I said, my roommate was the most racist, prejudiced dude like ever.
Mhm.
So we already were just not
Yeah.
vibing at all. And
That's
I got out there.
that was what the culture shock was.
Culture shock, yeah, that and like a preacher on campus screaming at everyone saying you can scream at a football game, but I can't scream about God, and just different things. Like it really does feel like a different culture down there, and there's a lot of really nice people, but it's also that nice where it's like you're trained to say, "Hey, how are you?" and then they don't even listen. It's like it's a very like fake nice, which is how
Oh,
Ansley taught
interesting.
me. And it's like they're so properly mannered, but it's like not actually genuine, is what how Ansley explained it. But once I met my best friend Ansley, who was my best friend to this day, things shaped up, and we have now a really good friend group from there too.
Mhm.
Shout out to Ansley.
Shout out Ansley, love you.
Yeah, I met her once.
Yeah.
She's a riot.
She's great.
And then every summer I did a different internship. I was determined to try something new and dip my toes into a little bit, and that was really cool. I got my real estate license in New York City the first year. I helped my mom start her business the second year. I studied wine.
What business?
Her raw milk business.
Okay.
I did like all of her marketing and built her website and ran it for a summer. And then I did wine studies in Alaska the next one, and then the last one.
Were you with your uncle?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was staying with him. I barely knew him, and my mom was like, "You have a chance to go up there," and I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to meet my uncle and
All right.
see Alaska." And then the last one, I think I was out here.
Okay.
I worked up at the YC.
Awesome.
Yeah, but college was awesome.
No shout out to the YC.
Cool. What was like the student body population in it?
Huge. It was thousands. Yeah, it was freaking massive, and the football games were super cool. Really big party scene down there, so I definitely got a lot of that in. And I joined a business fraternity my freshman year that actually really helped me with public speaking, which I absolutely love now and I've translated into my career. And they had me interview every single brother, and then every semester, every new pledge class had to interview me. So I've had to do probably like 600 interviews over the course of it.
Oh wow.
And it's not like a hazing fraternity. It's co-ed and it's academic. You have to have near 4.0.
Yeah.
You have to volunteer, and it's very, very, very hard to get into. So that helped shape a lot of college too.
Mhm.
Near the end of it, I kind of hated it, but a lot of politics. But it was cool.
Oh, you hated the fraternity at the end.
Yeah, it's just very tight knit. Like I said, they're very exclusive, and people took it just a little too seriously at times. Where I'm like, guys, we're college students in a organization we pay for. Like, let's chill a little bit. But
So what city is that school in?
Columbia, South Carolina.
So Columbia, South Carolina. So then yeah, I mean the culture, in my opinion, would be very different.
Yeah,
And people would get married like right out of college, right?
Oh,
It was
totally.
like you're supposed to find your mate in college, and you need to be married by like a year or two out of college.
They say
It's kind of a thing there.
They say a lot of girls go for their MRS degree, like Ms. like abbreviation, like finding your husband. Like,
what does MRS stand for?
Like Ms., like Mr. and Ms. Like
getting
the
MRS
last
degree.
name. Yeah. So they're saying like they're trying to get that title, like a husband. So that's what they say a lot of people go to college specifically for. But yeah, debutante balls and functions were things I had never heard of. And
Debutante?
yeah, that's like it's like the equivalent of like a quinceañera. It's like a woman coming out party that's very popular in the South, and the religion was obviously a big factor. And yeah, I mean, like there was some Confederate marches and stuff like that. So very different from like me spending a lot of time in New York City, where it's like the complete opposite of it.
Well, by that time, had you spent a lot of time in New York City?
Yeah, when I was a junior and senior in high school, I was in the city every weekend.
Okay.
I absolutely love New York City. Like,
yeah,
me and my friend group would just take the train down pretty much every weekend and just do shenanigans.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty big influence.
Where do you live now?
I'm in Williamsburg, which is in Brooklyn.
Okay.
It's right over the Williamsburg Bridge, so like Manhattan right there. So it's the first stop in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I'm very, very happy there. I thought I'd leave New York, and I always said I'd leave when I'm 30, but I'm 28 now, and I don't see myself getting tired.
Why do you say you would leave when you're 30? What's in your mind about that, or what was in your mind about that?
I just said, switch it up. I I don't like to have a strict plan, but I always said, my loose plan was after college, I want to be in New York City for some time, and then I want to go live in Europe or go live, just see what's out there. Because if, I was exposed to New York and fell in love with it, like I'm sure there's other places I'm going to fall in love with.
Sure.
And yeah, New York City was, I said I was going to move to London. I don't know why. Someone just asked me where I would move next, and I just said London, and that was the idea for a long time.
Still thinking about that?
Maybe one day. I've heard really good things about Spain. I mean, I studied so much wine. I'd love to go to France, and I freaking know French, so it'd be nice to use that.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I'm fine. I travel so much with my job and have the freedom to now. So I like having New York as just the place I'm at for a few days, and then having the freedom to go other places.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I don't like to get too tied to a plan, expect the unexpected and whatnot.
Yeah. Would you say that, like, would it be fair to say that the excitement and like the maybe adrenaline rush that you get from living in New York is like addictive?
I think it's yes, and I love that there's just always stuff going on. When I go to other cities, it just feels like everything's slowed down a bit and things are closed early, and it just feels like a toned down version of New York.
Yeah.
And I truly do love the chaos. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can't even read in silence. Like I want to live with other people. Like
I can't read in
I
silence.
can't. I swear. I blast music while I'm reading, and I would love in we had, in my fraternity, we had the house that everybody wanted to come to. We weren't allowed to have a frat house because we weren't like one of the big bro frats, but our house was the unofficial one, and I would have 10 people over while I'm doing my homework, and there would just be chaos. And I'm like, yep, I want to sit right in the middle of the room and do my work. Like, I don't know. I like stuff going on around me.
Yeah.
It somehow helps me focus, which is kind of backwards, but
No, I can understand that.
yeah.
I can't. If I'm in New York City for over 24 hours, I'm stressed out because I feel like the world's closing in around me and just restricting me.
You're getting pretty good at the subways, though.
Yeah.
Last time I didn't even need to tell you shit. You just showed up in my apartment.
Well, that's the thing.
Sick.
I could figure it out, but maybe this goes back to the homeschool thing. Like I don't have a choice. I need to get through the city.
Becky and
I mean, I
Katie,
think
they do not like New York City.
I think people. I'm not saying you wouldn't like it for an extended period of time, but I think like anybody adapts if you give it enough time,
Sure.
right? And so like it might be not a week or it might be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but I think you like have to you adapt to your environment, and you may not like it long term, or that you may not prefer that, but there is something about like being in a big city. Anyway, it doesn't really matter if you don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I can relate to like, or at least I think I can relate. I've only been in New York City a couple of times, but there's an energy about being in a big city. I don't care which big city it is,
Totally.
that there's all kinds of shit going on. And it's almost kind of like, I'm going to tie it back to this. It's not the same, but you'll get what I'm saying. It's like, when I would imagine that you're on the farm and you're forced to take action on something.
Yeah.
Like your mom had to go outside and get the water running,
Yeah.
right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Totally.
When you're in a big city, like you don't have a fucking choice to participate.
Yeah,
like you're gonna participate.
Yeah.
So you might as well fucking let it rip.
Exactly.
And you're just like, well, this is going to happen today or tonight. And you're like, let's go.
It's a good analogy too about the driving. They're like, if you're going to drive in New York City, you have to be aggressive. If you think twice or you don't take that turn, that's when people run into you, because everybody's aggressive. So you need to meet their speed or you're going to be the problem. Like being cautious in New York City is actually worse than being
you
a little hasty.
It's almost like you're taking initiative and you have to be in the driver's seat. Right?
Exactly.
Like if you're being passive in a big city, like you're going to get run over.
Exactly. And
like
that's like
in everyday life, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to be, like your job, you'll get run over, and you'll go try to like accomplish something after work, you'll get run over.
Totally.
Whether that's physically or like, you just like, big cities are competitive places.
Exactly. And I think that that's what I like about them because I'm a competitive person. I think it pushes me to
Yeah.
be a better person. Like my rent is too expensive, but it makes me work harder to make money to pay that. And I've been in my new apartment since October. I think I've been physically sleeping in a total of like 20 days, maybe out of the
Mhm.
2 months and however many days. So I barely even spend time there, but I still am very driven by it and really like just being in the presence of it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like you were saying, you feel suffocated if you're there too long. If I go up to the farm for like 3 days, like I feel like I'm gonna go absolutely insane.
Well, that's a difference. That's a different situation.
Yeah, that's our opposite.
No, but I mean, I can't be there for more than 3 days. Either
Well, I
these
think
days.
that I would say that
Mhm.
there's probably also like, my brothers and I have always said like we can't spend more than 3 days together as a whole family
Yeah,
because like the fourth day we get into an argument and the fifth day like people are trying to kill each other.
yeah.
So it's like 3 to 4 days.
We survived Thanksgiving
Before-
last night without getting fighty. That was surprising.
That's good.
I was gonna say, no wonder Becky's leaving tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
She's
right?
got this figured out.
She's-
That's
Yeah.
day 3. Yep. It's a good rule of thumb.
So I think probably you guys going back to Millbrook is a little bit different because you're like, it's not just like, because if you went to some other random town, small town,
Yeah.
like some of those things I think would probably be this similar where you're like, okay, I'm kind of bored now.
Yeah,
Right? Like, what's next?
but not hated as much.
Yeah, you're
It's
like, well,
no
my family's not around.
Yeah,
It's not. There's not even family around though. It's just like,
not really.
so I don't know.
What's your not to be a Debbie Downer, but I think it's just part of it's like part of who you are,
Mhm.
and it would be like both, right? What's the worst memory you have of being on the farm or in Millbrook or whatever?
I think I kind of think of my time in Millbrook as like when I was homeschooled and when I was in public school. Like they do
Mm.
feel like two very different chapters of my life. So for childhood on the farm was probably when I developed my phobia of snakes because we were out at the brook and Jim, the guy that's like caretaking for us, is very scared of snakes too. And we were swimming in the brook and a snake like came out like literally coming at me. And he's like lifting me out of the water and he sees it and drops me. So I fall back into the water towards the snake.
He did that on purpose?
No, because he was
Oh.
scared. It was just his reaction. And he was an asshole and saved himself, even though he was up on land.
What kind of a snake?
I don't
Water
know.
snake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like poisonous or anything?
No.
Yeah.
That shit was coming right at me. And I scrambled out of the water. And to this day, like, I can barely see snakes on TV. Like, it's not a fear. It's like an absolute phobia. Like,
Mhm.
and
Ask Kyle about when we were trail running, and I thought like that grouse was a snake. What did I
bug
do?
out.
Oh, dude, what did I do?
He
Kyle?
fucking jumped.
Oh my
He
God.
jumped and he pushed me out of the way. I fucking pushed
No.
Kyle
into the fucking grouse.
I remember when I was in like
He fucking screamed like a girl.
I remember when I was in like 10th grade, I was with this girl that I
I
was
was like, what the fuck? It's a fucking bird.
I get it. I completely understand that. Trust me. I'm right there with you, bro. I once was walking with this girl that I was like interested in, and we were going to like smoke a joint or something like that. And we were walking through a field and we saw a snake, and I pushed her and ran. And then, like, we slowly meet in the middle, and she said, that was really brave of you.
That's hilarious.
So, out of your 4 internships, what was the one the first year?
Real estate license in New York City.
Okay, what can you tell us about it?
It was really, really cool. I got my sponsored license there, but it taught me, it was just a very disheartening business, real estate in New York City, because there's crazy requirements and you have to make like 40 times the yearly rent, which is ungodly amounts. And so these kids would come in my age who, they just graduated college. I'll be in their shoes soon and can't rent them shit because they don't make this stupid amount of money or they don't have a parent to fund it for them. And then the most like privileged, rotten people would come in and have to rent to them. So it was just like disheartening from that perspective.
I'm not following.
So like in order to rent, do you have to make like a really high amount or you need someone to sign on your behalf?
In order to rent what?
Just an apartment. Just to qualify. You have to, any apartment, even a shithole small one.
He's the rental agent, the
Yeah.
rental real estate agent.
Okay, got it. But
So he's trying to rent apartments to people that want to rent an apartment.
Yeah. So I met people that were like similar to my age, fresh out of college.
I see. You
came to
mean
me
the
to
people
rent.
that like you were gonna rent to?
Yes, like clients. And stuff like that.
Okay. Now I'm with you.
So the horrible spoiled ones would usually get the apartments. And
Sure,
the ones
because they
that,
have the money.
Yeah, and the ones that I can relate to and that are like fresh out of college, you deny everywhere. But
Yeah, because they don't have the amount of money or credit or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I learned a lot. It was my first like corporate office job in the city, so I learned the subways and the streets and how to be a New Yorker, and it was really cool. And I'm still have a great relationship with the women that I had the internship with. I remember one of the most interesting things I learned was, and I had to take the test, and one of the questions was like, what do they say about like no more building in New York? And they said there's no more outward
There's no more
building.
land to build.
Oh, it's only up. So
Mhm.
like they're saying you're only building on top of New York. There's no more building around New York. And I remember just thinking that was interesting. I'm like, yeah, shit. We really used up all the space, huh? And then there's Central Park, which is like probably worth billions now in real estate.
Sure. Oh, easily.
It was really cool. I appreciated it.
Okay. Year 2.
Year 2 was helping mom start the business.
Okay,
That
what
was
do you
pretty
got?
sweet. I mean, I designed her website. I came up with event ideas, just like did her day-to-day shit. And that was cool because I was studying entrepreneurship. And it got pretty profitable at one point, and it was really, really cool. But the upkeep was a little tough. But being home for that summer was pretty rough. I remember feeling very bored and very suffocated.
Yeah.
And that was fine. But and I did my stuff up at the winery.
Was Liz
too.
doing any shady deals on the raw milk? Was she like paying off the inspectors or what?
Maybe, you're not allowed to deliver it, but she totally had like a delivery route going out,
Oh, there
so
you go. Liz. Shout out to Liz.
Shout out Liz, breaking the law.
Breaking the law, selling, slanging milk.
But yeah, I remember being home that summer. That's when I was dating someone really awful, so I was not that great that summer, but still learned something. And then Alaska the next summer was the freaking best.
Fairbanks?
Yep. I was studying to be a sommelier then, so I went to study with my aunt and uncle. Just had one of the most incredible summers. The weather was absolutely perfect. I met one of my best friends, Larry, out there, and he just like every weekend was a different adventure. So,
What's the summer like in Fairbanks, Alaska?
gorgeous? Sunshine all the time, all hours of the day. The
Like 20 hours a day?
24,
Or?
like there's no darkness. The darkest it got was like a little sunset, and it go right back up. So you walk out of the bar at 3 a.m, and you're like, "Fuck, do I need a beer or eggs or bed?" Like, it's very disorienting, but super fun. And yeah, people in Alaska are, I think, some of the best in the world.
Why?
Because it really is survival out there. If it's dead winter and you see someone on the side of the street and you don't get out and help them, they will die. So there is a strong, strong sense of community. They really fucking have each other.
Like people help each other out
so much, and they're just everyone I met was just the nicest and most helpful and took me on. One guy we just met was friends with my aunt and uncle. Let me come on his tour guide plane and sit shotgun and ride up to the Arctic Circle, the top point where this like Inuit village still exists, and they don't have like any technology and nothing. And he turned our things on. He's like, it's just us right now. And he's like, don't tell anyone this. He's like, grab the thing. He's like, you can steer. I like turned the plane and shit. It was incredible, like unforgettable shit. And yeah, it's like 0.0 on the globe. So it was just so many. And Alaska's like Montana, stupid beautiful. It is. I highly encourage it. Shout out Alaska for sure.
How can you be stupid and beautiful?
Oh, it's real possible.
What do you?
Very common.
It's kind of like how you won best man in show or whatever the fuck it's called. Best cow in show, or what's it called? Man of the show.
Showman.
Master showman. It's like, what? How could Tim be the master showman?
Oh, thanks for clarifying. Now that all makes sense. I mean, I think people would argue that that's how Montana is. They would argue that's how Montana is and Bozeman used to be, the sense of community with the cold weather. Because I've heard people say that, but
yeah,
I think people would say now everyone's just trying to make too much money here. That's a whole other tangent, but it reminded me of Montana. I
also think like go back 20, 30 years, like the technology has changed, right? Like our things are so much more reliable. Like we all have cell phones.
Yeah.
You all have, cars and trucks that are way more reliable in the winter.
Yeah.
Where like 20, 30 years ago, like, you got a carbureted pickup truck and no cell phone. Like if it didn't start, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Right.
You need
and
your neighbors and your friends.
and so it's like you can call somebody. You're like, I'm 40, 50 miles outside of town, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and nobody's around. So I mean, it's like that
Yeah.
balance of like how resilient are people, but also the technology is making us softer, but also like we're not as dependent on each other anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I would imagine in Alaska now, like people are like, I don't know.
I mean, there's still a lot of the Inuit and natives there, and there's still like there's a lot of them that are like sled dog countries and stuff like that. Like we went up there, and they still hunt for all their food. They make their huts out of everything. Like truly native villages still there.
They still
Yeah.
live as much as they can that way.
Exactly. And I remember I bought like they reuse everything. So they do have like some guns, and they collect all the bullets and make jewelry out of them.
Mhm.
Like everything is recycled. It was such a cool experience to know that that's like in the United States too, like the number one developed country, and there's still these pockets of people living in prehistoric conditions.
I think
I'm gonna pee.
Okay.
If I had 3 beers, or is that
one of those?
Yeah, I was gonna say Jesus.
leave that on. It sounds worse when you turn it off for some reason. I don't know why when David talks, then yours it doesn't sound as good if yours is off. I think it's just something because they're tied together.
Oh.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Okay, so Alaska's the 3rd year.
Yeah.
What's the 4th year?
Montana.
Oh, the Yellowstone.
Where we
Club.
are here. Yep.
Here we are, full circle.
Full circle.
Okay,
Yep.
let's hear about it.
I was finishing up my wine studies. So in Alaska, Sally or Kathy, our aunt, helped me study wine. She's so freaking knowledgeable. She teaches a lot of classes, taught me about everything. So then I was prepped for my certified exam, passed that. One of the youngest kids in America to pass it. That's a cool story. I'll definitely talk about that.
Let's hear it.
But wait, let me get to the last one first.
Okay.
It's after that. So then Yellowstone Club, I worked there for the summer, mostly wine. I was just a server, but I was working directly under their sommeliers. Awesome exposure, honestly. I don't really care for celebrities that much, but of course it was cool to see some. That was definitely not a motivating factor. It was mostly the pre-shift, doing blind tastings. We went through everything I would expect on the test. They were all advanced, so 2 levels ahead, and they taught me a lot. But I guess being this summer after college, I was ready to go into the professional world and really do that. And no hate to the Yellowstone Club, but I felt like the after hours was just like a lot of drama, and that could have just been the year, whatever. But it felt like I was losing my professionalism. And so I decided to pivot and go after just one summer and head back to New York City.
What's the coolest or your favorite celebrity interaction or story?
Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher for sure, and I have always since that '70s show had a huge thing for Mila Kunis. So, and she had no makeup on, and I thought she was freaking stunning still, and like all the girls were hating on her, and like she looks awful. I'm like, she looks gorgeous. She has 3 kids hanging off of her, and she dressed down like she was so chill.
It's a complete babe.
Yeah, and I picked up her plate and asked her if she'd like another drink, and she said no, and it was pretty dope. I was like, okay, bye. And then Giselle, the first Victoria's Secret model, was sitting with Katie, our sister's friend, and I was their waiter. And Cody said, "This is David. He's going to be our waiter." And Giselle said, I love when we get the handsome waiter. Oh. So a Victoria's Secret model called me handsome, so I can die now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you want to die, but sure.
She's an angel. I'm good.
Okay. Kathy, the wine.
Yes. So this was right after I finished the YC. I decided not to return them to the YC, so they were going to pay for my sommelier exam. But given my experience, I said I can do it on my own. So I actually was in South Carolina.
I think you could rephrase that as given your arrogance.
No. So I already had passed my introductory exam. That one was pretty much a written exam. And Andrew, he gave my first exam, and he's like, "You have a knack for this. I think you have a gifted nose. I think you should take other levels." So he actually mentored me directly.
Who is this?
His name's Andrew McNarma, one of the first American sommeliers.
Never heard of her.
He is a really, really great person. And so he helped prep me for it, and then I took my sommelier exam, which was absolutely nuts. I was the youngest person there by about 30, maybe 20 years. They recommend you have at least 15 years experience, and I was 24. And so I'd been drinking for 3 years, but I started the Millbrook Winery at 18. So I had about 6 years experience taking a test that recommended 15 years. So I was terrified, obviously. There's three parts. There's a written part, there is a service part, and there is a blind tasting. So for the written part, there's all these wine labels and you have to correct them. There's certain laws that you can't put certain things on labels, and I had to go through and correct them, which was incredibly hard. While I'm doing that, there's these instructors going around asking how to make certain cocktails, which I have very little cocktail experience. They go to the girl in front of me and they're like, how do you make a bloody knuckle neat or something like that? I don't even know. She went into some shit I didn't know. Went to the person next to me and was like, how do you make a Roy Rogers something with salt? Shit I've never heard of. And I swear they had pity on me, or someone looked down on me because they said, how do you make a classic margarita? And I was like, I know that one. I don't know how I did on each section, but I passed. So then part two was service, and that was really scary because there's a table seated for 8, and I had to take a bottle of champagne, bring it to the table, open it without making a sound. It can't pop at all. It has to just, so you have to twist it very specifically. And then out of those 8 glasses, I had to perfectly pour into each one the same amount, and I could not go back to a glass. So I had to time it in my head exactly how many seconds were in the bottle, divide that by the 8 glasses, and like go around.
And you knew this was going to be the test?
No, there's different parts for service. So there's a few scenarios I'd heard of, and that was one that I'd heard of. So I have been practicing that. I practiced a ton of opening the wine bottles and stuff. And then the last guy is an unhappy customer and says what kind of fruit he likes, what kind of flowers he likes, and what sweetness level he likes. And you need to recommend a wine, and what region and stuff. And then it was the blind tasting, which is the scariest part. So they just put 2 reds and 2 whites, and I have 45 minutes to say what grape it is, what year it was produced, where it was grown, and what varietals it was. If it was a blend, how many different grapes were in it. And I think I fucking crushed it, but that's the one that you study absolutely the hardest with. And I would just have my friends pour me a random glass of wine, and I'd just go through everything and try and get what year, where it was produced, the grapes, everything. But I really think I got every single one of them right. Like, I was super, super, super confident in my answers.
Nice.
And yeah, I passed. I was one of the youngest in America before COVID hit. Now that COVID hit, everybody stayed home and studied wine, apparently, because there's hundreds of them now.
That was like a thing, huh?
Yeah, I think people just got into a lot of hobbies and stuff, and wine. You know, everybody was drinking during the pandemic, so I think a lot of people just got more educated and took the test. But I did it before. It was cool.
That's cool. So I didn't realize that being can you actually just, oh man. I am not cultured at all.
You're good.
Can you define like what is a sommelier?
So sommelier actually comes from back when it was like kings and butlers, and they were actually supposed to be the everything. They were supposed to have knowledge on wines, beers, sakes, like be the right-hand man to the king in everything alcohol. So while it's now mostly focused on wine, because that's the most sophisticated and the one that people really focused on, it actually is a master of all those things and like service in general. So you are supposed to be the utmost professional person within the wine industry. So for restaurants, the sommelier is the one, not the server. The server will go around and do the food. Then the sommelier is supposed to come for very high class places, and it's his wine list, and he knows every other drink for like backups if they don't like wine. But essentially, they get to create the wine cellar for these exclusive restaurants.
But sommeliers are definitely branch outside of wine. So that's why they asked you to make a margarita or whatever.
It's just you're supposed to be knowledgeable in all other beverages, but wine is definitely like the written exam was 90% wine and like some questions on sake and beer and liquors, but it's a heavily wine focused job.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So, if when you know the whole you have to have 15 years or whatever thing, what made you take the test without all that experience? So, like, what made you kind of make that decision? Did you feel like you were ready, or you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to take the test?
My freshman year of college, I took the introductory exam, and that's where I met Andrew McNorma, the first American sommelier. And even though the first introductory
How old is Andrew now, roughly?
His 40s, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's the first American sommelier.
Was one of the, he was.
What?
I think he was the first. It happened in Europe first, and then it drifted over to America. But
I mean, it
it's
seems
probably in
very
his
recent.
50s then. Yeah, no, it's not a very old art. There's only like 264 masters in the world. So, at least last time I checked.
So you're what level?
I'm certified. The next level is advanced, and that one they recommend 20 to 25 years. And it's just more of what I did the first time, but harder, more difficult exams and stuff like that. And that one you need a written referral from a master. And Andrew did tell me he would write me one when I'm ready to do that level.
So sorry, you're what level now?
Certified.
Sort of.
So it's like certified.
It's introductory, certified, advanced, master.
Okay. So go back to explaining why you took the test earlier than everybody had recommended.
Even though the introductory exam is just a written exam, it's just a pass fail written. It has to be administered by master sommeliers, and they run through what to expect at the next level. So we did the blind tasting; it didn't count for anything, but we did it with the masters and got to know them. And Andrew just said he thinks I have like a gifted scent, like really, really good sense of smell.
You don't have any boogers in your nose?
No. I was just like the blind tastings, I was just knocking him out of the park with little experience. And he's like, I really see, like, I think you could be a master if you wanted to at some point. And so he was mentoring me, and he's just, the exam was coming up and he sent me it and he's like, I think you could crush it. He's like, you could also, have on your, I don't know, resume forever that you're one of the youngest to pass in America. And he's like, you don't know how many doors. He really gave me that push out of the nest.
Where does Andrew live?
He's in Florida now. He owns a whiskey company.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. So I talk to him every now and then. But my current job, I'm not in wine, so trying to keep everything fresh, but it's hard when you don't see it every day.
How much do you think the I'll call them recommendations of timing is all bullshit versus like it's actually worthwhile? Meaning like, oh, you have to do this for 15 years. And Tim and I have talked about this before. Is like, there are things in society or in structures, especially employment structures, of like, well, you have to do this for 3, and then you can take a test, and you have to do this for 4, then you can take another test, and you're like, yeah, but I could do it all right now.
Exactly.
And it's like, fuck off. Like, I'm not going to spend 20 years doing this. I could do it in 3.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of the experience things comes from the fact that smell and memory are associated extremely closely. They say more than even sight. So they say that the way to taste wine or remember wines is associated to memories and different experiences and stuff. So I truly think it's just enough time to taste all the tastes in wine and smell all the different smells and stuff, because at those higher levels they just get more complex. And I've had a lot of wine in my life, but I'm only 28. Somebody who's 40 has definitely tried a lot more and has that adjusted palate. But I think, like you said, I was studying every day, and like me and Andrew were going through shit all the time. So I think I condensed mine, and I started at 18 too. Well, a lot of people start like they're studying a lot later in life of wine, but I was hooked at 18. I was ready to get into wine. I was a tour guide at the Millbrook Winery when I didn't want to work on the farm, and that totally sparked my interest.
Okay, got it. That's cool, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So do you like if there's these like stupid, but sometimes they'd be cool icebreakers? Like icebreaker, like tell me about yourself, or tell me something unique about yourself. And those are always weird because you're like, well, like what's unique about me? Or whatever. You could be like, yo, dude, I'm like the youngest fucking pimp out here.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one for me.
Yeah,
I use it a lot. But
is it technically you're a wine
wherever you're drinking
sommelier? Because could you be a whiskey sommelier?
Kona Big Wave. Shout out to Kona Big Wave.
Usually they have their own names, like a beer expert's a Cicerone. But yeah, sommelier, I feel like people use it interchangeably, but it technically translates to like the butler, like the beverage butler or drink butler.
Okay.
What is that? Is that a French word?
I think so.
Sommelier.
I believe so.
Seems French.
But yeah, I thought at the YC that was going to be my expected path, but I think I just don't want to be in restaurants. If I'm going to do wine, I want to help people design their cellars or trading wine or open my own winery and like produce my own wines. But I just think restaurants are too much for me.
What if you owned it?
I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of sides of owning a restaurant, and it's just not for me. My aunt and uncle said that if I ever wanted to come up and run their restaurant in Alaska, I totally could, but I said I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, because don't chefs generally run restaurants?
Yeah, most. I mean, it depends, but yeah, a lot of the times the executive chef is the one making the menus and
Because
everything.
Frank's not a chef, but he's very informed of a lot of
Yeah.
that and knowledgeable
I mean,
about.
Kathy's a chef.
Oh, okay,
She does all the catering and stuff.
that checks out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Frank was telling us when we were having dinner here, and it's interesting when you do a toast. And it's a big group. You just toast the person next to you and go in a circle because if the table's too big, it doesn't make.
Yeah.
But there's all these little intricacies that you would
Yeah.
just know
Yeah.
from being in the restaurant, food and beverage industry.
And Kathy's attention to detail is insane. She taught me so.
So they have like a fine dining restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're Fairbanks royalty. Like their restaurant,
okay.
like people propose in it
Oh, okay.
all the
So
time.
it's definitely fine dining.
Yes, very much
Got it.
so. And the food is super good. Like I ate well that summer.
And that's, if you remember from the podcast with my mother, Frank left after my aunt's wedding straight to Fairbanks. So he was like, I guess in his 20s. And then he's been there since.
Yeah.
I think by my math, he's definitely in his 70s now.
Yeah, I think so. Because he's older than mom.
She's been there for 40-some years.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're done high school.
Done with college.
Done high school, yeah.
And then after the YC, I decided not to come back after it just wasn't it. So I moved to New York.
Excuse me.
Not really having a plan, applied to a ton of jobs, and I got one in the events industry, which was very random at the time. And it was a sales job, but it paid the bills. So I found a cheap apartment way in Harlem. Was working down on Wall Street, and what I loved about the job was it was a ton of travel. I couldn't afford to travel in college, but this job brought me to pretty much every state in the United States, all throughout Canada. So I really got a knack for traveling.
What kind of events were you doing?
So tech marketing events. So they're focused on either cybersecurity, financials, or just IT in general. And it's basically like connecting the Googles and the Amazons and the big tech companies with like the top tech person at the local hospital, at the local bank. So it's really just bringing people together. But these companies have just billion-dollar budgets and throw stupid money towards these things. So it really taught me how corporate America works and how it's all monopoly money. Like it's insane. Some of the stuff these people pay and just like don't care about. So it taught me a ton, and I got to travel a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually translates to my current job. So I did that. Then I did my wine thing for a few years, and then people from that first job started their own company, and they kind of headhunted me and bought me out of my wine job to come work for them, and that's what I'm doing now. So I'm back to traveling a ton. That's why I said I'm never in New York City. But yeah, I moved back to New York, extremely broke, lived in Harlem, worked that job for about 3 years, and then switched to the biggest distributor in New York City for wine. That's when I started.
Who's that?
It's called Empire Merchants.
Okay.
And that was all right. I helped open a lot of really cool.
So you're bootlegging shit in New York City.
Yes, pretty much.
All right.
I worked for this like huge distributor, so I'd get like 70 to 90 bottles of fine wine a month. So I was flushed in beautiful, expensive wines, and I helped.
You mean just part of your job?
Yeah, they're samples. So I need to go out to these two.
How many?
Like 70 to 90. Like I had a shit ton
a
of
month?
wine. Yeah.
Holy shit!
Like
90 bottles
like
a month.
Boxes and boxes. Some of my coworkers had storage units.
What the fuck did you do with these things?
Drink it, bring it out to restaurants.
Holy shit!
But they would give
You're
me
drinking 3 bottles of wine a day.
probably, and then like 9 a.m. in the morning. Like that's when these guys wanted to start. But my job was literally to go to these 200 restaurants or so. Let them know what's the hot products and get them to just buy more. So it's just a lot of drinking and stuff. But I helped open a lot of restaurants. I worked with some chefs, and that was sick. Like they'd prepare the meal, I'd bring in options. Like they'd invite me to the friends and family opening, like truly make me part of the experience. And that was freaking awesome. But unfortunately, a lot of owners, more times than not, would say, I don't really care what it tastes like. What am
Mm.
I going to make? And
Yeah.
I literally have shoulder problems because I would carry wine around New York City and it fucked up my shoulders. And I'd go to 10 places and they'd shoo me off and say, come back later, or just be like, I don't care, how much money am I going to get?
Mm.
So it felt like I was selling my soul, you know? And they say, don't.
You mean they wanted to sell wine in their restaurant that they would make money off of, not how it tasted.
Yeah. They didn't care what was in the bottle. And like everyone was crazy for orange wine. That was the big craze. And people were like, I don't care what it tastes like. If it's orange, I'll buy it. And I'm like, cool. I'm glad I studied my ass off for it to just be like, I don't give a fuck. And like, I know it's just grape juice, but like, I really worked hard and I'm proud of that achievement. So like, if I'm going to work in it, I'm not going to sell my soul. So when this company approached me, I was terrified, the current one, because they just opened this January. And with my wine job, I was part of a union. I had great benefits and everything like that. And this startup is a startup. They don't have as much money. And they were really like, I was honored they asked me, but it was one of those things that I called my mom and mulled it over for weeks. And I'm extremely happy with it. And as of 3 weeks ago, Empire is on strike and shut down. So I think I made the right decision.
All
and
right.
I still have a shit ton of wine.
There you go.
Plenty of wine in the cellar.
What do you mean they're on strike? Is it a union strike?
Yeah, they're on union strike. So all the employees got furloughed. A lot of them lost their jobs. So I would be fucked in my new expensive apartment. I mean, a lot of them found other work, but it just wasn't it, you know?
So connect me all the way through with these events. So
Yeah.
you're going to go do some IT security stuff with a hospital, as an example. So you fly to Michigan. I don't know, whatever. You walk me through the whole thing. How does this company make money?
Yeah.
And how do the events matter?
And all these cities, like give New York City, for example, there's like Amazon Web Services. They want to meet whoever controls the Bank of America's tech. Because they want to sell them their technology.
Yeah.
So for them to get to that top person, it usually costs them anywhere from $800 to $1,000 just because they need to take them out to dinners, work their way up the chain to get to these people, because those top tech people are getting thousands of emails a day. So in the people that in Amazon's mind, they say it costs $1,000. So I get 30,
that's nothing.
Yeah, but I get 30 of these people in a room. 30 of the people they want to meet, and I sell them sponsorship for $10K. So what would cost them $30K to meet these 30 people individually, I'm just going to put them in a room. So my company will host these events all throughout the USA and Canada, all big tech hubs, so big cities.
So you're going to bring 30 bank tech security folks into the one room.
Exactly.
And Amazon's like, yeah, I want all 30 of these.
And they're going to sit there and do a presentation. And it's cool because then the head person from the hospital, you know, they don't have to sit online and think about all these options. They can walk up and be like, my hospital fits 500 people. We have about this budget. What can your company do for me? So it's cuts down a lot of bullshit and just comes straight to us. But
it's efficiency.
But I'm not even kidding you. It's a dinner from 5:30 to 9, and these companies pay me $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000 per event. And I have like 6 of them that sign up. So this dinner has now made $100,000. Probably cost us like, I don't know really how much.
A couple thousand.
Yeah. Not that much.
Whatever.
Know? And so it's great. It's a lucrative business, but it's scary. You know, you're in the business of people. I have to hope that these people show up, you know? There's events where it's, you know, not great numbers and you have to pivot and fix that. But
what do you do?
Give them another event. Bullshit. I'm in sales. I just gotta, you know, keep them happy. But the
meaning Amazon shows up and the other clients that they, the bank tech security
the bank
folks
hospital,
don't show up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, what the fuck? Where are they? And you're like, my bad. I'll fucking give you another one.
Because there's times where we've invited 60 people and they all confirm and 20 show up.
Yeah.
When we're in Canada, where the stereotypes everyone's nice, and in Toronto, 31 people sign up and 31 people show up. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So it's scary at times.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing that's with this new company is to be different. We're bringing in local celebrities or local athletes to every event. And they'll come just for the last 15 minutes to just be like, they'll He'll just come for 15 minutes to talk about like
Who?
being,
Like, give me an example.
David Tyree just came when I was in New York City.
Okay.
He's a New York Giant who
Mhm.
won a bunch of Super
Yeah.
Bowls. He's famous for catching
Yeah,
the
like
football in
on
the
his
head.
hat, on
Yeah.
his helmet.
So he came to our event, and for the last 15 minutes, he just said, you know, I'm a leader. You're all leaders in your companies. And he's like, let's just talk. Do you guys have any questions for me? I love New York City. It's the best city in the world. So just like to be cool, you know, different. And everyone in my company is shy, and I'm not shy at all. So now what they're having me do is grab the mic and putting a seat up and doing like formal interviews in front of the entire audience.
They're shy because they're security folks.
No, just my colleagues are shy because they just are shy.
Okay.
They just at the first event that we had, they were like, you know, we need somebody to ask him questions for your event. We need someone to sit in the front of the room. But they were all like, obviously David's going to be the one. And so now I'm getting really into it, and I'm coming up with different questions and researching them. And it's something that I kind of want to do professionally, like interview people and stuff like that, and like grab the mic. And I ordained my cousin's wedding, so I really like that. Yeah.
We're interviewing a professional interviewer.
Aspiring
Professional.
Aspiring professional, yeah, like a professional moderator. And then for our bigger events, there's people that moderate the whole day. I have to start learning about what the tech they do is and go to different tables and get people like talking and stuff. But we have this one guy we hire, and we have to pay him like $7,000 per event to just use a microphone for a few hours. And I'm like, I could do that. Yeah. And they're all a lot older, and they like the young new people in the tech and everything. So I'm like, all right, it's my time to shine.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to get a few more celebrities under my belt.
There you go.
I love that, and it's complete freedom. They gave me the head of sales role, so I have no boss. But it was kind of like you were saying earlier, like about the motivation thing and like the workforce in general, how it's gone down. Like this is the first time I've ever had to discipline myself so hard. There's not one person checking on me. It's just numbers at the end of the year. And my numbers are great so far, but there's no one waking me up. There's no one telling what hours I need to work. So it's this new world where I have to be my own boss and like wake my shit up at 8 o'clock and like have no, you know, excuses, no reason to just keep sleeping because I totally could. And I'm going to hire someone soon. And I'm like, I'm probably going to get someone fresh out of college because we're not rich yet. So am I going to keep someone to the standards that I was raised before COVID of going to a 9 to 5 and dressing up because that taught me some good boundaries? Or am I going to have this new person work in our 2023 version where they sit at home and can smoke weed during the day for all I care, as long as they get their work done? And it's this thing I've been like pondering about recently too.
What do you think? What do you think he'll do?
I still don't have a good answer. I don't think yet. I can see, if I'm being realistic, that's how I work. Like I like my freedom.
Mhm.
I like being able to, like I said, go to the gym, and I have like good stress. Like I don't want to let down my team, so I know I get my shit done. I love my mornings, but that could go south so quick if by hiring someone and just, you know, if I had my tendencies out of college, I was a shithead. So
Mm-hmm.
I needed someone to whip me into shape a little bit. But that also means that I'm going to have to also be in the office 9 to 5 and also dress up because I got to, you know, hold them to the same standard. Well, what do you think? What would you do in that situation? Either of you.
It's hard to say.
I would try to blend the two experiences, and I would try to I would think about the experiences that are like that are new, right? Like in the last 3-4 years that are healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And be like, okay, like what can we keep from that, right? How do you keep that? Some of that's a feeling, some of it's an actual like physical presence, right? Whether it's being somewhere,
Yeah.
whether it's actually having flexibility or not.
Yep.
But some of it is a feeling of having flexibility. Whether you have it or not is not necessarily the case, right?
Yeah.
If you feel like you have it, then you have it,
Totally.
right? So I think that's important. I would kind of think about those things. I would say if somebody, and I would have to like you'd want to like do this through the interview process, if you could, right? You're not going to be able to do all this, but explain kind of like why somebody should learn in person.
Yeah.
Right? Is like there's something about learning in person that you cannot replicate virtually.
I agree.
And so like I'll say this, like listening to my boss or my bosses talk on the phone listening to them talk to people,
Yeah.
how they interact with people, how they react. And I would watch their body language and
Yeah.
like I would, it's just how they handle themselves all throughout the day. Like that, that was so invaluable, right? It was
Totally.
so valuable. I was like, this is crazy. Like, and so then I would start to mimic that. And it took years, right? Um, but then you would put other people in the office. So like there'd be somebody else who like handles a certain situation spectacular. Well, that same person handles a different type of situation terribly.
Yes.
But then
totally.
somebody over here in the office is the exact opposite. So
Yeah.
it's like you
Drive
can
off of
take
it.
pieces from other people
Totally.
and be like, okay. And you do that through just being in the same room.
Yeah.
And you're
absolutely.
absorbing all that information. So I think you can't learn that virtually.
And like we outsource to do like my research and like do the initial like cold calling, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
We hire out of India, and they'll just like cold email and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cheaper and whatever. And I have a team of 6. It's gonna be 10 by the end of the year, and obviously I can only communicate virtually, and it is such a disconnect. Like I feel it. I feel that it's just like not even like a person I'm talking to, and like some of them a little bit, but it's hard,
Yeah, and I think our society's really. I hope we're hitting the peak now. Maybe we're not. We'll see. But our society is so, air quotes, data driven.
Yeah.
And here's what data doesn't do. Data will never be able to measure trust.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And data can't measure that. Like, I like you, and you, like, in the past you've performed for me, and that like I trust you.
Totally.
And so like, how do you put a number on that?
Yeah.
Right.
And people are so different behind a screen, like absolutely different. Like you can see someone in person.
Well,
there's
there's
just like that. They're like, they have that fear, or that fear's gone,
That's right. And so there's some people that you'll call and be like, hey, I'm stuck in a really bad situation and I need your help.
Yeah.
Some people will drop everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
And they will drive or fly across the country or whatever.
Yeah.
And like they'll be there the next morning at 7 a.m. and they'll help you, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's not shown in data,
No.
right? They're like, oh, we did all these metrics and like this company that we work with kind of they're like average. And I'm like, yeah, but that person that works at that company is not average.
Yeah.
That person is a rock star.
Yeah.
And that person helped me get out of a situation which was saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars in hours.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's what all of my like sales is too, is like building the trust and the credibility and everything like that. So I can totally relate to that. And it's harder with the distance.
I would do both. I would try to blend both.
Yeah.
With employees.
I think that would be the best step. But again, it's like, it's a very new thing in general,
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a boss or rely on someone. So it's a cool new chapter that I'm like, I'll be at these events with these, multi-million-dollar tech people. And I go to every single event, and I run the entire show. Like I do registration. All the waiters come up to me. Like I pay the bill at the end. And, I'm 28. I've been in the professional world for a while, but I feel like I have the worst case of imposter syndrome all the time.
Why?
Just in that, I don't know, like when they'll ask me, sir, how would you like these tables arranged? How would you like all this? I like feel like I look around the room for like the adult or the supervisor, the boss, and I'm just like, oh fuck, it's me. And I'm like, how did I get qualified for this kind of thing? And it's just a new like, and I think imposter syndrome is a really interesting thing because like I get it now. Like I feel that. I'm like, what qualified me to make these decisions? But you just need to like have more confidence in it.
It's mostly healthy though. Have imposter syndrome.
Yeah, of course. And I think a lot of people get it when they have their first like leadership role or anything like that, because you're just like, you don't have that teacher to hold on to. You don't have anyone. It's just, every decision is going to come right back to you. So you need to be firm. And I am young in the tech world. I do stand out. I have piercings. I have tattoos. That's not as common with these like much older people. And I need to carry myself a certain way or they're not going to take the company seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if I was fresh out of college, I don't think I would have the confidence that I have now. But now when I go there, I'm like, I fucking run this and we're going to have a great time.
How much of that imposter syndrome is based on tradition?
Probably a lot. I mean, I've always, in anything I think I've done, I've always had someone there doing it with me, like no matter what, like a boss or a teacher or a parent, you know?
Yeah, but I mean like tradition in that like okay, you have tattoos, right? Okay, you have a nose piercing.
Mm-hmm.
That has no effect on how good you are at your job. And it
Yes,
has no effect on what your
absolutely.
decision making.
And it's getting better. I will say that. I've noticed that a lot of new people stepping up like into leadership positions do have tattoos. It's becoming a lot more casual in that regard, and I think people are starting to get that. But there was still, my second event ever that I moderated the whole thing. This one guy went up to one of the girls at the event and he said, "Huh, I didn't know they'd let girls come to these things because not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women are in tech." And then he also made a comment about the fact that she was wearing a sweater, and I guess it wasn't nice enough. And then I have my industrial piercing. So it's like, it goes through both parts of my ear. It kind of looks like a
Is that what
nail.
that's called?
Industrial, yeah. So
Okay.
it's the double piercing, goes all the way through. And so one guy's like, "Yeah, you did a pretty good job, but I couldn't focus because of the nail through your ear." I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, "Fuck you." Like, not helpful at all. We wouldn't invite him back to our events, but he was a CIO at Best Buy, and 2 weeks later they all shut down. So I was like, "Fuck that guy." But there's a lot of, and like that was the South where there's a lot more tradition. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's definitely cities where I need to work harder to, get that credibility
Sure.
for sure. And I'm by
But I
far,
would,
one of the youngest people in like that specific industry because to be the top tech person, you're usually a lot older.
sure. Yeah.
I thought the tech people were all these damn kids.
The
The what?
ones
Said I thought the tech people were all these damn kids.
Yeah.
there are a lot of like tech people doing like what's it called, like coding and stuff like that, but they're not the people who make all the big
Yeah,
decisions.
that makes sense. They're just
It's all
like,
the old money that's
yeah,
up
yeah,
at the
yeah,
top
yeah.
for now.
Dude, I'm so exhausted. So I don't know when you want to wrap this up, but I wanted to ask you before we do either way the 5 a.m. club.
What about it?
What do you got? Let's hear about it. Because I was thinking you were saying you're going to hire this kid.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, and you were saying you have to really, you have to self motivate
Yeah,
yourself. So
totally.
how's this affecting your life?
So I'm not finished with it yet, but it's inspired me so far. And the concept is to just, no matter what your day throws at you, if you start your morning right by doing it, starting at 5 a.m. and just doing it a certain way, no matter what comes at you in the day, you're going to remember your first part of the day was that good part. So what I personally do and what I think it alludes to recommending is waking up and don't use your phone. Don't like get up at 5 a.m. before the sun comes up, before anyone else is awake, when it's truly quiet, and do something for you. Meditate, journal, read, work out, anything like that, and take a few hours to think about your day. Like make a point to be like, I'm gonna freaking kill this day. Like don't think about your work yet. Don't think about the things that stress you out. Like just have your own morning. And I'm about halfway through the book, and I've been waking up at 5 a.m. pretty consistently for like 3 weeks.
What book?
And it's called the 5 a.m. Club.
Is that the? Oh, I guess it's not Mark Wahlberg's.
No, I'm not sure the author.
I've heard about this book for a while. It's been
It's
around.
popular, yeah, and it's cool because I've read some self help books and they're fine, but you read one, you've read them all, kind of. They get a little preachy.
You ever had a book given to you called "What Happened to You"?
No. Is that a self help?
No, I was telling, Brendan, I don't even remember this, but I know it's in the text messages because I sent you a picture of this book because we were talking about like the most insulting self-help book you could get somebody. And I took a picture of this one. I just said, "What happened to you?" with a question mark.
Oh,
and I sent it to you. Could you imagine giving that?
That's so terrible.
Hey! What happened to you?
Yeah.
Fuck off, man.
But like, really, man.
What happened?
Well,
This one's cool though because it hasn't told me to do anything yet. It's truly just been a story about a billionaire who dresses up like a hobo and he meets an artist and an entrepreneur and he's just inspiring. And then it turns out he's actually a billionaire and he's the one who came up with this 5 a.m. club and he's just talking to them about it. And it's truly just been dialogue for half the book. And I'm waking up at 5 a.m.
What time did you used to wake up?
I would try to be up by
3
8 or
p.m.?
9.
When?
8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Yeah, like
Okay.
it wasn't terrible.
So you're
I
waking up
worked,
way earlier.
yeah.
So
I
what the
worked
fuck
at
are you
9 to
doing for 3 hours?
I really like reading, obviously. That's like my
Yeah.
big thing. Like that's always my go-to. But lately I've been trying to get into new things. Like I was, doing a lot of research and stuff like that for my old job, and now with this new one I like don't have to do that anymore.
What time you go to sleep?
Truly depends on the night. I have like
You mean average, roughly?
12 or 1, I guess.
So you're getting like 4 to
Well,
5 hours.
All my life I've had pretty clinical insomnia. Like they had me wear a bracelet for it, and they're like, you should do a sleep study. Like I comfortably get 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night, and that's fine. My doctor said it's completely fine as long as I'm not feeling affected by it. It's called a super sleeper. It's like a really small percentage of people, and I think it's great because like my mom even used to say it. Like she said she'd come into my room at like 2 in the morning and I'd be crying, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, it's not fair. Timmy gets to be asleep and I have to be awake because I would just sit there hours.
Tim?
And it was
What the
bullshit.
heck?
And I was scared, so and he's sleeping. I'm like, fuck you. But I've just changed it to use the.
You know why Tim was sleeping, right?
Why?
Because he's working harder than you.
Yeah, probably. That's pretty accurate. But I just use it to my advantage now. Like I would spend all those extra hours, stop trying to fight it, stop trying to find solutions, and just study more, read more.
Yeah.
But I want to try and get into some different stuff too. So if you have suggestions, try to fill my morning. I'm all in.
Jiu-jitsu.
Maybe. If it opens by 5 a.m. And yeah, for the future, to wrap it up, I want to.
Are we wrapping it up right now?
Well, I was telling David I'm so goddamn
Passing
exhausted.
out.
I don't know how he's feeling, but like,
I'm okay, but if you wanted, that's fine.
yeah, it's totally up to you.
I was just, yeah. I mean,
How far are we in here? 140 something?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, really?
You're falling asleep.
I know.
Shit.
Why are you so tired? What happened?
Family exhausting.
It's just been a long 3 days of the holiday with the family.
Yeah, it really
I was up at 4:30 this morning because I had to work and drive.
Okay.
But yeah, this company is growing really big. I think it's going to be really successful, and I'm excited to be at the forefront of it. And I don't know if I'm going to go anywhere after New York, but I'm traveling a ton, so very happy with that. And hopefully converting the farm into a winery at some point, because I really want to get grapes from around the world, not grow them on the farm. Maybe grow a block just to say we're having Shunpike grapes, but import wine from around the world, put my own label on it, and distribute my own wine. I think that would be absolutely insane, amazing, something I'd be really proud to do. Find my own winemaker, make like a tasting room, get people to like really come to the farm, and like could still do the milk there even too, so the kids can go to the farm and the animals, and the adults can come get drunk with the wine. And I just think that would be like such a successful thing. And farms have the best infrastructure for wineries. And I worked at the Millbrook Winery, and I've told them about this idea, their owner, and he was like, we want to create wine country. You can use our equipment. You can use our winemaker. Like, we will support you in this endeavor. Great idea, kind of thing. So that's forever on my back burner and something I'd love to do. But, any angel investors out there, shout out, hit me up.
It's in the archive now. It's recorded.
Need a few $1 million if you got it.
All right. Well,
That's a wrap.
let's call it a day. Thank you, David.
Thanks
for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Anytime.
Yeah. Peace.
We're out. Peace.
Wow. I can't believe that was 2 hours. 1:45. Wasn't mom something?